This is Lucas Ryder, Blacklist executive producer and the writer of episode 608, Marko Jankowics.
This is Noah Schechter, co-writer along with Jonathan Shapiro of episode 609, Minister D. You're listening to the Blacklist Exposed
on Golden Spiral Media.
I don't want anything else but the whole truth, and I want it given by Christmas. Welcome to the award-winning Blacklist Exposed podcast. I'm Agent Troy Heinrichs.
And I am inmate Aaron Peterson because he is still in jail. And I was in the room when my daughter was born. I was literally in the room, and Ressler pulling out those drugs. Yeah, more gross. It was disgusting. Thanks for joining us once again as we discuss numbers 58, Marko Jankowics, and number 99, the stellar rapper Minister D on the Blacklist, with Hour 1, written by Lucas Ryder and directed by Bill Rowe, and Hour 2, written by Noah Schechter and Jonathan Shapiro and directed by Michael Caracciolo. Show notes and other intel for this episode of The Blacklist Exposed can be found at theblacklistexposed.com. And I just want to tell you, Michael, we did like 4 different takes to get your name right. You are welcome.
And we were probably super tired as well, so apologies to everybody. It was a late night, watching 2 hours of awesome revelations or misinformation or misdirection or whatever you want to call it, and then going back and trying to put it all together with a bunch of other research. So we'll cover all of that in our case profile. But first, we'll hear from all of you with a profiling question from last week regarding Dembe. Then we'll also, at the end of the episode, find out what you all thought about this week's 2-hour extravaganza about Katarina, Rostova, courtrooms, Donald Ressler and Liz. The Keenlers went crazy. It's going to be all kinds of fun. So if you have fun this week, make sure to go over to Patreon. That's Patreon, patreon.com/theblacklistgsm, and fill the fedora. That's right. Throw Aaron and I a few bucks for our pain and suffering for having to dig through all of this material last night.
Yeah, and before we go on, I'm pretty proud. I wrote a tweet that summed up everything, so I'm gonna read it for you. Okay, this is the entire 2 hours summed up in a tweet. You ready?
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Red knows something. Liz knows something. Ressler knows something. Samar thinks she knows something, but probably misspelled it. And Aram just wants a solid gluten-free bagel. That was the Blacklist. Agreed? Agreed.
Totally agree. Oh my gosh!
All right, with that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't even think Cooper, Samar, or Aram came in at the end, but I don't think Cooper or Samar were even in the first episode.
I think Cooper was not there at all. I think Samar might have been no, you know what? I know Aram was because he came in with the bagels in the morning, but you're right. I don't think they did show up because they didn't go into the post office.
Well, that'll make the character section that much faster this week because we got a lot of other stuff to talk about.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about. We'll get there. With that said, let's see how you answered last week's profiling question. How can Dembe know that Liz reminds him of Katarina? We start out with Katrin?
Katrin sounds right, yeah.
Okay. Mitchke. Boy, well, this is going to be a fun episode. Katarina is alive. Maybe her memory has been erased and she lives somewhere as an ordinary woman. Now, that's an interesting idea because we do know that there have been tamperings with memories before.
And we potentially might know that Katarina is actually alive once we get to the date conversations.
We might.
Monica says that Red told Dembe to say that whenever Liz asks too many questions.
No, I don't think he'd lie.
It sure seemed like he did this week.
Wait, yeah. All right. I stomped on my own theory. Never mind. Take it back. Or my own opinion. I just threw that out. See, this is why I don't talk out loud. I just think and then I write it down. Jeanette Santiago. Dembe was taken by the Mombasa cartel at age 6. He remained there until Red rescued him in 1993 at age 14. I just want to point out, he didn't rescue him. He found him. That was the thing. That's what they said.
Right.
So from approximately 1985 to 1993, Dembe was held captive. You remind me of her, too, in this context. Doesn't sound like it was by photos or videos. No, it seems like he met Katarina after 1993. If Dembe knows Katarina didn't actually commit suicide in 1990, then Red knows, which begs the question why he told Liz her mother was dead.
Well, he said she was dead, and then she said she was missing. So Red's kind of gone back on the whole Katarina thing a few times throughout the course of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn said, season 4 finale, Dembe says to Red that he is not sure Liz will ever be ready to learn what he did to Katarina. She never went into any ocean. The old spy master tracked her to a hotel in Prague. There was the infamous swing photo. Simple, really. She lost her ever-loving mind, and Red stuck her somewhere for her own safety. Hence, he did something to her. Dembe has met the locked-up Katarina several times over the years. He has checked up on her for Red from time to time.
I do believe Dembe has checked up on her from time to time. I do believe that.
All right.
Nick Alborn. It could be as simple as a photograph he had seen. I don't agree with that. Dembe has been to Dom's more than once. The error or deliberate evasion in the writing was Liz's lack of the rather obvious follow-up question to Dembe once she hears him say she reminds him of her mother. You knew my mother. All right, Nick, that brings up a great point that we're going to talk about later, which is why does no one ask follow-up questions? Thank you. Moving on.
They're bad interviewers. Katarina reached out to...
They're the FBI. It's literally in their job title.
Oh, that's what the I stands for? Investigation?
Yeah, apparently. No, it stands for ignorance is bliss sometimes. That's what I'm getting.
Julie said Katarina reached out to Fred to tell him that Liz was in danger. Dembe was there when they met. Because of this meeting, Fred decided to surrender to the FBI in Season 1, Episode 1.
Once again, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Grace Norman. Katarina is, or at least was, alive after her supposed suicide, and Dembe met her. Agreed.
Marilyn finishes up with, because Katarina was undercover girl at the Nairobi brothel. You didn't say it was a good memory. That's definitely creative.
Well, this week it is Troy's question, and it is, do you feel Dembe lied to Red about Liz? Was that a lie?
Or was it just withholding the truth? Or a secret?
It was a blatantly lie, because he said, he point blank asked her, so she had nothing to do with it. No, that's a lie. Done.
Thanks to all that answered this week. Now, before my bladder bursts, let's dig into this week's case profile.
Okay, these are episodes 8 and 9 that are combined, so we're going to put this all together, okay? So when we talk about characters, we're talking about through the whole 2 hours what happens to them. And we're going to zip through the blacklisters this week because we have cooler stuff to talk about when we get to the characters. Everybody cool with that? Of course you are, because we already decided to do that way. All right, the first hour, here's what happened the first hour. Liz and Jennifer tried to kidnap Dr. Hans Kohler's nurse, Margarite Renard, and Jennifer gets herself caught because Liz doesn't know how to kidnap people properly. Ultimately, Liz has to throw Ressler into the quote-unquote know-everything pool to save Jennifer and bring down the drug kingpin. Who knew that mummies could deal LSD? I had no idea. That was Arnold Vosloo, by the way, for those that didn't know. Star of The Mummy.
That's the only way they're able to live forever.
It's possible. The second hour, we have the eavesdropper, Minister D, who I'm sure has some dope beats, who's number 99 on the blacklist. He gets information and then uses it to blackmail peeps. He goes by Minister D, but his name is Elijah Bailey, and we'll come back to him. And by the way, the first one was Jankowics, and that was number 58.
LSD drug dealer with a French hottie for a girlfriend.
Now, before we get into the characters, let's just real quick, the overall plots from each one of these, were either one of them more exciting than the other one? Because I'll be honest, I felt like they were just there to propel character moments this time.
Well, I think the second hour is more inclusive, I guess is the right word I'm looking for, where the Minister D, the peeping Tom, but through his ears instead of his eyes, he's the one that I think ties in the most to the story because he was directly involved in seeing and being near Katarina Rostova, right? She gives him the burn mark on her face because I think they were there at whatever happened in some kind of explosion that happened 4 days after the recording of the tape. So I think he's the most connected. The other side on Jankovic is that he was there because he's just the boyfriend of the nurse, and the nurse is the one that's connected to the entire story. So the first hour seemed a little bit more loosely connected. But overall, in the scope of watching the 2 hours, I really was more engrossed and on the edge of my seat in the first hour than I was in the second hour until the tape played. And then I was like, oh my gosh, play it again, back it up, rewind.
Well, we got a lot of really exciting stuff, especially because Ressler's hair officially did move in the first hour. I don't know if you noticed it, but I did, and it was glorious. I think we should devote an entire character section to that strand. That strand has been struggling all season just to shine, just to break out, and it finally happened. So good job, hair.
I think that's probably the most exciting thing about the 2 hours is the amount of time we had for Ressler and Liz together.
Oh man, there's a whole lot of like accidental touching and rubbing and, hey, how's it going? I didn't know you had a girlfriend. I didn't mean that. I just meant that you're the best guy ever, which definitely means he's dying this season. I'm sorry. He's gone. Bye, Ressler. These 2 hours confirm that. I'm going to miss you, bud.
Oh my gosh.
You don't think so? I mean, seriously, whenever Liz tells somebody a major secret, they die. Whenever she gets really close to somebody, they die. Or they get their ass handed to them, like Jennifer. She's probably going to die before the year's out. I don't know, man. I think Ressler's, this might be his season.
And then you have the whole 6-year contract thing, but whatever.
Yeah, his contract's coming in. But it's sad because I really like Ressler when they give him something to do. They just never give him anything to do.
I know, this has been great watching him these last couple of weeks, especially this week. Diego was just knocking out of the park. And I'm so glad that even though we were so frustrated that he wasn't read in last week, that he's actually read in this week. So now he's part of the Scooby Gang. I love it.
My favorite part is when he's in the courtroom, because he does it twice in the second hour. But Diego, aka Ressler, he just has this smarmy look on his face, like, yeah, I got your frickin' answers. I mean, he just looks at the lawyer like he wants to punch him in the face, and I loved it. I don't know why. It's just so cocky and self-assured, and he's like, oh, okay, you're gonna come for me. All right, but let's do this, man. Let's roll.
And I loved how he was able to take the whole thing and tell the truth without actually telling the truth. So I don't think he perjured himself once in the way he delivered his answers.
No, he 100% perjured himself at the last line. You really don't understand what lying is, do you? You got the profiling question. You're here. You're struggling. It's really not debatable. I mean, he said, "Is Red Reddington in this courtroom?" Well, I guess technically you could say, "Well, he's now Raymond Reddington."
Exactly. That's what people forget. He's playing a part of Raymond Reddington, so technically he is Raymond Reddington.
I don't know. I still think you're not sure what a lie is, but that's cool. You do you, man. We got some dates we're going to talk about, but here are some things I want you to think about, and we're going to come back to it later, okay? Just to give people a little something to tantalize them with before we get to it. December 7th, 1990, and December 11th, 1990. Those are 2 dates you need to remember. December 7th, Loving, who is ends up being Bailey, was admitted to a hospital with severe burns after an explosion at his house injured him and killed a man named Zachary Temkin. They found a picture at Bailey's of 2 men, one of those assumed to be Zachary Temkin, the other one assumed to be Bailey. Inside that picture was the tape we're going to talk about later, okay? And on December 11th, an assassin that injures Bailey and murders Temkin, they said that Temkin appeared to be his lover. There's no confirmation of that. That is what the FBI assumed. Clear?
Clear.
Okay. Now, let's move into characters because we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about.
This week in music, we have the first hour where Liz and Jennifer finally say goodbye to each other. We hear Paper Airplane by Agnes and Julia Stone. Then at the end of the first hour, we hear Too Dry to Cry by Willis Early Beale. Then in the second hour, as Dembe searches for a way to identify the caller and the team uncovers the listening post, we hear White Glass by Loma. Then finally, as Dembe and Liz chat while Aram comforts Samar, we hear 7 in the Fall by Jesse Marchant. As always, you can hear these songs and all the great songs on the Blacklist by visiting the Spotify playlist or the Apple Music playlist. We have both of those links over on our website at theblacklistexposed.com.
All right, Dembe, it's weird because he does do a lot these 2 hours.
A lot.
He's on screen a lot. But it's more of him flying all the way to London. It's a long way to go to commit a B&E and get his ass kicked, by the way. Then there's him hunting down Margarite and getting her out of the country, getting her to Scotland, I believe.
Or dropping her out of the plane over Scotland.
Yeah, I'm undecided on that one. Do you think he killed her or do you think he just relocated her?
Dembe just seems like the nice guy. I think he relocated her.
But did you get the impression that Red wanted her dead, though?
Yeah,
right?
oh, yeah, for sure. Like, you know what you have to do. You have to take care of it. I do it myself, but you got to do it for me. That sounds like a death wish.
Yeah, I'm going to miss her. Other than that, we have not a whole lot. I mean, he really just tracks everything down. But we do learn that he is the secret keeper, and he agrees to lie for Liz, theoretically, according to Troy. Or according to me. I don't know if you believe that that's a lie. I believe that's a lie. He lied to Red. You don't. That's a debate. That's what the profiling question is all about. But regardless, he's definitely keeping her secret. He's keeping Red's secret. Will this hurt the relationship, you think, down the line with him and Red?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I mean...
It's a big lie. If it's a lie.
It's a secret.
Yeah, that's what a lie is. Literally, that's what a lie is. It's a secret, something you don't tell, or you don't tell the truth about.
Well, no, because even Red's keeping secrets, but he's told Liz that he has a secret, so he's not lying. He's just not sharing the information.
Okay, this is where we come back to Troy doesn't understand what lies are. That's still a lie. I mean, I can own up to it. Everybody's got secrets, right? I have secrets. You have secrets. There's stuff we don't tell people. Those are lies. If you don't tell them.
No, it's only a lie if you tell me you have a secret and then tell me the opposite of what you know. Then that would be a lie.
Yeah. Otherwise, just withholding information is what you look at.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to do that to protect people. And right now he's doing it to protect both Red and Liz.
Usually, people say that to protect themselves. You know that, right? It's usually a selfish action.
I don't think Dembe has to protect himself.
No, he doesn't want anything to happen. I really don't think Red would hurt Liz, so I don't really know what the point of that is, other than Liz was obviously scared, and she's probably after he ordered the nurse killed. It's kind of one of those. Well, I don't want to take a chance. All right. Well,
that's a big open question though. Did he kill the nurse or not?
Well, he mentioned Scotland, so to me, he's taking her to Scotland to, he could have just killed her in the plane, just strangled her or something if he really wanted to, but he didn't.
And we know that Red has an affinity of dropping people out of the planes, and if he was going to do it himself, then maybe Dembe dropped her out of the plane over Scotland.
Yeah, that was my other option. I'm like, wow, that would have been pretty funny to watch. Just like, okay. Well, Aram, he dropped some bagels off. And do you have a point, or just being pointlessly adorable? That was a fun little moment between him and Samar. And everything is going to be fine at the end. That's literally all Aram did for 2 hours. Those 3 moments.
Other than the usual Aram stuff.
Yeah, other than, using the technology to track some people down. But in terms of character moments, Aram, we did find out that he prefers gluten-free bagels, which that's a sad thing to hear because, everybody knows the gluten bagel is the way to go.
That was so weird because when Aram comes in at the end of that first hour, as they open up shop for the morning because they'd been out all night, I was like, wait a minute, is this the first time I'm seeing Aram this entire episode? Wait, was Samar in this episode? Was Cooper in this episode? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was so just engrossed in the episode that I didn't even think to look for the other characters. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It was great. Although I do wonder what happened to all the bodies from the drug deal gone wrong. Where's Mummy's body at?
Oh, yeah. Did they just leave him in that car and just left them there in that wherever the meetup was?
I didn't see them call a cleaner. I didn't see them dispose of anything themselves. They just leave the area, or what? Call Brendan Fraser. What happened? Who took care of this mess?
Rachel Weisz came in.
She wouldn't do these movies anymore. She's too important now.
All right.
She's an Oscar winner. Why do you think she wasn't in Mummy 3? Don't get me started. All right. Samar, migraines, serious issues. Seems like a big problem. We did learn that this is becoming an increasing problem for her. Aram's being very supportive, but you can tell it's starting to affect her more routinely. Are you concerned about Samar making it to the end of the year, or are there going to be some more serious complications down the road? I will say they haven't just let this go, and I thought they were going to, and they did not.
Yeah, because she wasn't in the first hour at all, and then she's in the second hour. Seems like she's okay, but then when she starts doing the migraine thing, I'm like, oh, okay, at least they're coming back to it, because this was just weird for a couple episodes where she seemed like she was perfectly fine, and then it's like, oh, it's one of those drop plot lines. But nope, they brought it back, so that's good. Now the question is how long does she have?
How long do you think she has? Do you think? I mean, I don't know if it's going to be fatal, but there could be some long-term damage.
I think there could be a lot of long-term damage. I mean, migraines are no joke, first of all. And if she's having them constantly, where she's got to step away from her job to go sit down in the office and in the dark and hide and stuff, that's going to be no good for the task force. So even if she doesn't die, she's not going to be long for the task force if she can't perform her duties of the role.
Agreed.
FMLA.
Agreed. That'd be funny having Samar fill out FMLA paperwork. All right, and Cooper, he's officially, Flo or Alice from Flo's Diner. And orders up. That's all he does. Orders up.
And the best part is that he's like barely in the episode, so Ressler even just kind of takes over the office again and says, I'm just going to steal the boss's hooch. We're going to drink in the office. Cooper's not here. Why not?
I really love Ressler these 2 episodes, man. I'm telling you, I really enjoyed, like, give him more screen time because when he gets stuff, he can be really, really funny. And of course, I like the dynamic with him and Liz. Now, that leads us right to Ressler, okay? We got a lot of Ressler stuff this episode, so we're going to talk about that now. Jennifer will talk about in a minute, just to give you a break between the characters that didn't do a whole lot. Ressler has a lady friend and the credit card cleared, apparently. So he's dating one of those people that he paid to date. Surprised by that?
Well, you knew the alter ego thing would have to come back up. I was shocked that the alter ego thing turned into an actual relationship. That was the thing I think that surprised me the most.
I mean, he's a good-looking guy. He's got a good job. He seems responsible, and he's a Boy Scout. Well, he used to be, till he met Liz Keene.
And the problem is you don't know like how much time has passed between the wedding and these events particular. It's like a couple days or a couple weeks. We don't really know, but it sure seems like this relationship moved pretty fast to get a key to the apartment.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because I mean, Red's been in jail and definitely for some time because he already proceeded to trial. And trust me, trials never move that fast ever. I don't care who you are. You do not get your trial a week after you've been arraigned. So that was interesting. Although, I mean, they are trying to make it seem like they are doing that, but they would never do that. It's just not fair to the accused. In terms of this woman, how long she's been there, I mean, Ressler seems like the kind of guy who would trust someone that fast, I guess. Although I'm kind of surprised I don't want to say this kind of person. That's not nice. A person that he originally paid to be there, it's surprising to me that he would be so quick to trust her with a key to his apartment.
Exactly.
Because it seems like, I don't know, it's kind of a shady, it's not really shady. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get by. But also in the same token, I mean, she's willing to do anything for money.
I mean, she's an actress, first and foremost. She's there to lie to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And yet you're going to give her a key to your place because she says she's interested in you more than what the original contract of the agreement was. Like, that seems like super shady. Like she's in on it trying to get some information or whatnot. And granted, that's us reading into it, but that seemed like that moved along.
That's you reading into it. I didn't
quickly.
think that at all. I didn't think that at all. Not once. And in fact, I was actually pleasantly surprised that by the end, she's not a turncoat or a spy or hidden something or other. I mean, she really seems like she genuinely cared about Ressler, and she realized this is not going to work out because of his relationship with Liz Keene, which took it to a different level, I would say, this week. We're getting some Keenler action. What do you think? Yeah?
Well, that's the question. Is this relationship with the alter ego lady, Hannah, I believe her name was?
It's over. It seemed pretty over to me.
Yeah, so was this written in specifically to try to push forward the story point of Ressler going back to talking to Liz more often?
Mm-hmm. That's what I got out of it.
Okay.
He made her a little jealous, little jelly, because you could see it in her face, like,
Oh, you took her to the wedding. Oh.
There's a whole lot of, who this? Who this? You could ask me. I would have went, man. And he wasted no time. This guy who won't do anything wrong wasted no time basically committing crime after crime to help Liz out.
That's right. Yeah,
we're in
too
the
deep.
fire's there.
We're in too deep. We can't bring in the coop now. We got to do this on our own.
The fire is there. It's burning. So what do you think? Do you want them to get together? There was a subtle little hand touch at one point. There was a hand on a shoulder touch at one point. All those things were meant to make us go, well. So what do you say, Trailer?
Well, I mean, we all said Mulder Scully season 1. And I love the fact that we get the Mulder Scully working together aspect of it. I don't want them to actually end up together, though.
Really?
Yeah, I really like the kind of flirtatious back and forth, whatever that happens here, but you keep it at arm's distance. You don't actually commit to the full thing. I think that makes it for a much more interesting storyline, to be quite honest. Once they're together, you get the Aram and Samar thing where now it's like, oh, they're cute, but it doesn't really move the story forward. I think keeping them at arm's length gives them the ability to bounce ideas off of each other and have like a check and balance. So Ressler can be like, I don't know about that. Or Liz is like, I don't know about that, but oh, hey, yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's go do that. I think that makes for more interesting writing than it does if they're just, we're together.
Relationships between major characters almost always ruin the show. It's just a fact of television. I mean, go look at Castle Moonlighting. There's so many options you can go with that except for Heart to Heart. Ironically, it made that one better. I love their chemistry. I do think they have a chemistry. It's good to see them kind of had feelings for together. I would rather them go back and forth and toy with it. And then at the very end, maybe they get together, or maybe they decide, you know what, let's see where this goes, and then, fade to black. Then I would have another relationship that may end up detracting from the actual story of the Blacklist. Because I really think it's been proven, at least to me, that focus should be on the story between Liz and Red, and the characters need to develop and need to mature and need to grow and everything else. But you get too much of a romantic relationship. It always gets complicated and detracts from the main story.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Ultimately,
I am the opposite of you. I want them to get together, but not until the end of the show.
Until the very end of the show. Like, I love the back and forth between them. I think it's hotter that they're back and forth versus actually together.
Wow. If I was hotter, huh?
If I was a Keenler person. I mean, I'd like to see them together. I wouldn't say I'm like a card-carrying Keenler person, but I want them to work together. I want them to have a relationship together in a working way. And then at the end of the show, man, that was a lot of crap we went through. Hey, maybe we should see where this goes. Okay, I'm good with that.
Yep, that's what I want. And I never want another Tom-like relationship again in the history of this show. I can't do it. I can't do it.
You're the one that keeps bringing him up. Stop bringing him up.
No, there's a lot of people on the boards that were bringing him up. Because he's, it's too soon after Tom. I'm like, it's been a long time.
It's been like 2 years. He had a toe tag in 18.
Bye, Felicia. So here is where we are now. Ressler is officially on the stand. And before I get to what he says, there was a great line by James Spader, Red Reddington, that said, when they asked him if he was, in charge of the investigation, he said, I will stipulate he was in a feudal game of whack-a-mole. That was just something I found very, very funny.
You say feudal or feudal?
Feudal. Did I say feudal?
It's all the drugs in people's stomachs. That's what
I'm telling you, man. It has been like I was rewinding and replaying and rewinding and everything else just so I could write down everything that was said. My brain is literally fried from watching a TV show. I feel horrible for my wife who was trying to watch it, and she's just like, "Can we stop rewinding it already?" I'm like, "I gotta get it." So, okay, let's move on. So, I would say we got a ton of mythology in this episode. I feel like in the second hour, I feel very surprised at how much we got, but you don't feel the same.
I think we got a lot of information. I haven't had time to yet process all of it to see how it fits into the greater arc of the show. I think that's partly of my challenge right now, is that you got this whole sub thing. You got, oh my gosh, Fitch is back with his voice, and Katarina and Fitch knew each other. And I'm like, slow down, but back it up. I got to watch this like in half speed instead of 2x speed for a change.
Yeah. And we have some carefully placed flashbacks. I mean, you get where it seems like Red is remembering Fitch and Red is remembering Katarina, and Liz is kind of thinking of her mother, saying goodbye to her. I mean, it's just like a lot of moments in this episode where I do believe there is a ton of mythology I did not expect in this episode. Mostly because a lot of the season they've been toying with us on it,
And I think the one in particular, those two flashbacks in particular, the one was Liz in the diary scenes from season 4, because Katarina was all sad and weepy. And I think that's when Liz was touching her arm. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other one was back from season 1, post Ansel Garrick part 2, when Fitch is looking and standing over Red after he had pulled him out of there with Garrick.
Yeah, which makes you... There is some wonder there, because you would think that Red would hate Fitch, right?
I would think so. But it always seemed like they had a really interesting relationship, and that he knew about the Cabal, which then leads into a whole other discussion of, is this a other Cabal member that was part of the team? Was this Katarina herself? Was this, there's just a whole bunch of questions that come out of all this, depending on how these dates work out.
Right. Well, I mean, the dates, man. You're the one that's a little freaked out about the dates just because you made a lot of assumptions. This is the funny part. People keep throwing out dates that if you go back and look, those dates were not stipulated in the show. They're just assumptions. So you have they have to go by dates that are actually given. Otherwise, you're just making your best guess in a lot of respects. And there's a lot of dates flying around that are not mentioned ever in the show. It's just the fans have come to that conclusion. Some very well might be true. Some very well might not. You know what I mean? So it's important to remember that only go by the dates that you are certain of. You can't have you can't say definitively about anything unless you actually they gave it in the show.
And then you're trying to combine those dates with different dialogues in the show and who was talking to who, when they were talking to them, and all of that. And that determines then how it's all going to play out. So you're trying to piece together the puzzle, but it's not really in the show. It's things that you've seen in the show that you're trying to piece together your own version of it. And I think that's where we get confused sometimes.
Exactly. Well, that's where you get confused sometimes. Okay, so here's what we know about the treasonous plot. We've heard about this treason for a long time. I don't recall ever getting any real details about it. Do you? Do you?
Other than he was a traitor to his country.
Right.
But we've never gotten why he was a traitor or what specifically was the thing that made him a traitor.
And now we know.
Now
we've got it. So here's how it breaks down. You ready?
Ready.
And feel free to stop me if I get something wrong, but I am pretty sure by the captions and by the replays, I've got all of this correct.
And your wife does too.
Yeah, she's not happy. I don't think she's going to be watching Blacklist with me for some time. All right, it stems from the USS Gideon, which was a sub that was sunk by the Russian Navy March 1990. In the Barents Sea, 134 men died. It was a secret mission. Raymond Reddington was one of 16 people that knew about the sub. There were 12 officers and 4 CIA operatives who knew about it. 2 days before the sub went down, the captain changed course. He communicated that to the intelligence officer, who was Raymond Reddington. He was the only one who knew the coordinates, and a secure KGB communique indicated that Raymond Reddington provided the Russians with those coordinates. And also, this was he was known to the Russians as codename Lamprey. Okay, that's the basic. That's a summation of the events, and that's pretty close to everything that was said. What do you think about those events, and what did you take away, and what did you learn from it, I guess?
Well, the sub going down in 1990 was the first thing that stuck out, because you're like, okay, well, if there was some secret mission, there were code things that went down. If Katarina was the one that actually stole the codes and communicated it rather than Reddington or set him up to be framed, this is where you have to go, okay, well, when was the actual act and when was the idea of the framing actually brought to charge? And I think based on the tape that we hear, which was recorded, what was that, December 4th or December 7th, 1990, when we hear the tape of Katarina and Fitch talking to each other, I think what we can surmise is that Katarina was the one that got this information from Reddington, the original Raymond Reddington. She's the one that was able to transmit the information through her network of people, most likely via the Cabal. And then when Raymond found out about the Cabal, post this sub going down, that's when they decide to frame Raymond Reddington for the deaths of the 134 men in order to keep the Cabal a secret, which happened later in 1990. So I think that part of the story makes sense. But that means Katarina has to still be alive in March of 1990 and in December of 1990.
And why do you think she's not?
Because
I never thought she wasn't. And obviously it's confirmed that she was alive at that time.
Because if you go back to, this is one of the episodes I watched last night, was The Caretaker. And in the Caretaker episode, Raymond is talking to Liz specifically about her mother, and that it was in 1990 that Katarina committed suicide, left her clothes on the beach, and walked into the ocean. So if
what was that date? What was the date when she walked into the ocean?
It was just 1990. Mm-hmm. So if she does that in 1990, then if she's dead, she has to do that after December 7th. And if she's not dead, then she could have done that anytime prior to March 1990. Anytime in 1990, really, if she's not dead. So the question then becomes, is she alive or is she dead?
No, well, I mean, they say never to be heard from again. She went into the sea, so that would have happened after the fact because Fitch was well aware.
But she could have done that in early 1990 because
No, see, now here's where, okay, I'm going to stop you because here's where everybody starts getting confused because you start throwing all these what ifs around. Well, the dates don't work with that. So you have to go with what the dates tell you, not with these random asides, which is what people keep doing. And I have to say, I mean, that's what gets fans all like, wait, what? The dates are very specific. They don't clarify what date she disappeared in 1990. Therefore, the end of 1990 is totally fine. There's no reason why it couldn't be then. There's no reason why it couldn't be December 13th or December 14th or anything else. And by the way, it would be very cold, so you could definitely die in the sea. There's no reason why none of this works. It's just this kind of stuff is where people get confused because it's guessing. That's not based on what the show has. That's just you bouncing around, coming up with ideas. That's not necessarily a theory that works with what the show gave us. So why not just work with what the show gave us and accept it for what it is, that she died after these events, theoretically.
But the show did give us the fact that there was a fire in a house.
Which they mentioned here in this episode one more time.
Yep. And in Requiem, that fire is happening in what we would assume is probably late 1989. It was never said in the show.
Then once again, that's an assumption. So
right.
why you have no date to verify that's the date? So that's an assumption. That's not something that told you in the show.
But what the show has told us is that it is a few weeks after that event that Katarina tells Kaplan, hey, I have to go away for a while and you have to go out of Liz's life too. And then we get the newspaper that says that Katarina was body, clothes on the beach, never to be found. Constantine's name's mentioned in the newspaper article. So if you put all of that together, you can surmise that all happened in a 1 to 2 month period of time. And in which case, if that is what we're assuming, then we're also assuming that it's being done at the holiday season because of Luther Braxton and the memory wipes and all of that stuff.
So 1990 still works 100%.
But then it would have to be Christmas of 1990, not Christmas of, because you're not going to have a Christmas tree lot up in January. So if you're thinking
what Christmas tree lot, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
In the memory sequence, right? We're going through the memories in Luther Braxton.
Of a 4-year-old?
No, the 4-year-old who's wearing the same red outfit.
Right.
That she shoots the man with, that we assume that she shoots Raymond Reddington.
Right.
That's what she's been told in the end of season 2. So if she shoots the bad man and then there's a Christmas tree lot and she's wearing the same red dress, you can surmise, and based on Katarina's conversations in the hotel room in Requiem, oh my gosh, and Liz, and then she gets really sad and she's like, don't worry about it, he was a bad man. You could surmise that all of those events are tied together into that one same event. And if that's the one same event, then that means it has to be around the holidays
of 1990.
Of 89, because
why do you keep going to 89? How do you say 1989 is definitive when there is no date given in the show other than these dates, these specific dates?
Because she disappeared because Raymond said, the imposter told Liz that her mother disappeared in 1990. And that would be December 1990, which is right around Christmas. I mean, it's still weeks after. I mean, how do you go from how do you go from
You've got 3 weeks after December 7th. You've got 3 weeks before, almost 4 weeks before it is the end of the year. So 3 weeks until Christmas from December 7th. That's plenty of time. That works 100%.
So you're saying she goes into the ocean like New Year's Eve?
Like right after Christmas or before Christmas. Fitch wanted it resolved before Christmas, so she goes in right before Christmas. This all happens, and I think it can happen relatively fast. And I think it all works out in 1990. It all makes sense. I don't know where all this bouncing around is coming from. I know that people have been saying that for a while, so maybe there's more to it that I'm missing. But I don't recall 1989 ever being said on the show specifically.
No, it never was said. I think it was just a matter of trying to figure out how many weeks was it between this house burning down downtown, right? It was never a city given, but we can assume that the house burning down was the house that was the beach house because of the fact of the motel, and they went to a motel that night. We've kind of got that confirmation through Liz's dialogue in this season. And so I think it's just a matter of when Katarina is calling Kaplan on the phone in the motel and she says it's been a week, it's been a blah, blah, blah. I think we got to figure out how many weeks that is before Katarina says I'm actually leaving and going away.
I'm just saying, I think fans are making this harder on themselves than they need to be.
Because if it is
I do believe that.
If it is all between December 7th and say New Year's Eve, and then Raymond Reddington never comes home, which would make sense because he was dead, and that whole sequence would make sense. And then she disappears, and then it's closer to 1991 when she gets the surgery done, whether she arranged it or did it to herself. We can have that conversation in a little bit. But yeah, it's really coming down to Requiem to say how many weeks was it between the house fire and when Katarina disappears.
Sorry, man. I feel like people are overdoing their minds on this one. I don't think it's that complicated. I really don't. In fact, I think this laid out things very nicely and made it pretty easy to follow. But it's happened over the last several years where I think fans are just going all kinds of different directions. And because of whatever theory they have in their mind, that's how they're lining things up. Which, hey, that happens. I've said that a long time. Whatever, if you get stuck on a theory, I do believe you make everything fit whatever your theory is. You know this.
Oh yeah, and part of the complication.
You definitely know that.
Yeah, part of the complication too, I think, comes in with the whole when Liz went on the run. Her wanted poster says that she was born in 1985, and if she got the scar and everything when she was 4 years old, then that would mean that she'd have to be 4 years old in 1989 into 1990, but not all the way till Christmas of 1990 because that just doesn't work mathematically.
What was her birth date in 1985?
That's what the wanted poster said. We all thought she was born in 86 based on earlier parts of the show in season 1, but then the wanted poster said 1985. So if you say she got the scar at 4 years, she got the scar from the fire, then that would mean that she's got to be 4 years old sometime between, late 89, she turns 4. Even if she turns 4, maybe Christmas, I guess you could say she turns 4 on my birthday, which is the end of the year. And then she's still 4 technically at the end of at the end of Christmas the next year. So I guess that makes sense.
Or the wanted poster has the wrong year.
Or the wanted poster has the wrong year, which makes it frustrating for fans because they couldn't get the production value right.
I mean, her name and everything was changed. So that's possible, is it not? I mean, she's not necessarily, and we don't know when in 1985. Maybe she was born in December of 1985, which might still make her 4 years old, just almost 5. There are a lot of ways that works for 1990. Really, really, I think people are overthinking it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, well, that helps me out for my other argument later then. Then I don't have to think so hard.
Okay.
So I was almost out of the Red Arena camp last night, and now you just brought me back into the Red Arena camp. So thank you for keeping my convictions.
No, I really don't. We'll get there. Even though I don't believe in that theory at all, I don't think anything here eliminates it. Although I know a lot. Well, I think there are some things that would eliminate it for some people. I just don't subscribe to the theory. I think the theory doesn't make any scientific sense. But there are plenty of ways that it could still probably work. But I don't think it does. I don't know why people. I'll be honest. I don't know why you still subscribe to it. But people are stuck on their theory, man. They want it to work. Could still work. Absolutely, could still work. There are a lot of ways that none of this makes any sense and a lot of ways that it all makes sense. So we'll see what happens. Let's move on so we can get to that testimony. That's what we got from Ressler. And then we got a nice little moment where Red says, "You are everything I like about the FBI and everything I don't," essentially, which is kind of funny. And then we move on to Jennifer. So she's been leery about kidnapping people. She doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to go too dark. This is too much for her. And then she gets the Guantanamo Bay treatment about the mummy, aka Jankovics, and this will end, and when it does, I'll find you. That's what Liz says to her because Jennifer decides she can't do it. So what do you think about Jennifer? Where are we at with what you believe in terms of Jennifer? Are you glad that she came to her senses and now it seems like she's going to be out of the show again for a while?
Yeah, because she's going to go visit her friend in Long Island, was it? I believe it was. I think that this was a really good way that she was able to understand just where her, I guess, loyalties lie in a way. Her loyalties lie with her mother, first and foremost. And where she does absolutely want this answer, she doesn't need the answer in order to go on with her life. She's almost like the yin to Liz's yang at this point, where Liz is going to stop at nothing in order to get the answer. Jennifer's like, I'm good. I spent my whole life hiding from this guy. Whether he's the guy or not, I don't care. I can continue to hide from this guy and I can live a perfectly normal life. What's the risk? So I love the conversation she has because it kind of sets a grounding point for Liz so that she can start to ask the question of, is this going too far? And how far will she go? And I think that sets up some good storylines for the remainder of the season.
I gotta say, she took an ass whooping in this episode, man. Her eye was just shut.
Her eye also opened up very easily, very quickly. I noticed that too, that she was like, her eye was like almost like sewn shut, from how black and blue it was after the pounding she got from Jankovic. And then she's having the conversation with Liz and her eye's able to open pretty well. So I don't know if
that
that's
was
like
after
a couple days later
travel time and some rest, and it'll open up pretty quick.
A giant steak on it.
Yeah. Not that I know, but I've been hit a few times. It can open up pretty quick. There's nothing wrong with that. It's been fun, Jennifer. It's been a fun ride, but you obviously weren't cut out for Liz's awful plan. Because that plan, I will say, and we're going to go ahead and segue to Liz, that plan was awful. That plan was not smart. You're an FBI agent. Walk up to her, flash your badge, and just ask her. And I know she said, if I just ask her, it's not going to work. How do you know that? I mean, it's been decades. Why wouldn't she? She knows Reddington's in custody. Just say, hey, I'm with the FBI and I'm following up on some leads. Tell me about Raymond Reddington. We know it's not the real one.
Right. And if she doesn't want to bring her back to the post office, they can clearly bring her back to Ressler's place because that's the new interrogation room.
I feel bad for him. He's got blood and guts and intestines and everything all over that rug. It's never going to come out. You're never going to get that out. Oh.
Not to mention all the ground up LSD that they were stepping on while they were trying to pull the bladder out.
How much money do you need that you're willing to sew drugs into your stomach?
I don't know.
And I do got to say, I don't think the human skin is flexible. I don't know if it's 8 months pregnant flexible in the span of overnight.
Yeah, especially that first lady. I mean, she looked really pregnant.
Yeah, that was. But hey, I still liked it. I thought that was a really cool way to do it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Well, it's better because it's always swallow balloons, and then it ruptures inside your intestine. Yeah, it's like, now this was a really clever idea. Kudos to the writers for coming up with that idea.
Yeah, I like that idea. But Liz is super dark and willing to do whatever it takes this episode. We find out through the course of by her finding Margarite, and then Margarite and Jennifer basically going back to old Mummy. We find out that way that the details of what we can find out. Well, actually, Jennifer finds out and then relays them to Liz, which is we find out that Katarina set the procedure up for Red. Katarina Rostova took someone away from me, but your tape might have given them back to me. We find that out at the end. So we've got a bunch of Katarina stuff, but most importantly from Margarite is the Katarina set the procedure up for Red. And she never
met Reddington.
And she never met Reddington.
Which means you could interpret that as she's on the front side of the surgery, not on the back side of the surgery.
No,
because if she's on the back side of the surgery, you would have met Reddington.
Well, she said she never met him before. She would have met him after because she was the nurse. So she would have met him after. But she set it up and then, yeah. But she never met them together. So there's that. So that doesn't hurt your Red is Katarina theory.
Whichever
doesn't make any. But to me, it 100% says that it's a man and she didn't set it up. But, whatever.
And she could have set it up over the phone. Didn't have to be in person. Didn't have to be right at that moment. Could have been a couple days before, a couple months before, a couple weeks before. Just because you're setting it up doesn't mean you have to set it up at that moment.
They're pretty. I think they were pretty clear that Katarina Rostova set it up in person
with the nurse. But they could have done that, in September or July or, hey, you gotta make sure you don't eat or drink anything for 24 hours. Could have been the day before. So it's not the day of the surgery that it was set up.
How do you know that? Once again, this is where you're throwing things in the show. They never allude to that being a long period of time. They just said Katarina set it up. That's it.
Yeah.
And you're bouncing all over the place. You're trying because you've got this theory that you're trying to figure out a way that it works. It doesn't really make sense. Honestly, it doesn't. And I think this helps. It helps people that don't believe Red is Katarina, which I think is probably the majority of people, honestly. But it doesn't necessarily discredit your theory as well. So what do you want to say about this whole aspect of it? I'm just saying that
it either confirms nor denies. There's so many people who are like, this puts a nail in it. And other people are like, this absolutely proves it. It's like, it doesn't absolutely anything. That's all. No,
it doesn't absolutely anything. But they do, I believe, make it a point that it is a man, not it's not a transition of any kind.
Yeah, but I could also say, hey, I'm setting up this procedure for this man because the man is what's going to be coming out on the other side.
Yeah, you could. That's because you want that to be the case.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying it is possible.
It's possible that a German Shepherd came in and it came out Raymond Reddington. Is it likely? Nope. Very unlikely. But there's probably, because of the science fiction that's involved in the Blacklist sometimes, it's possible.
It's possible.
So anything's possible if you try really, really hard to make it work. I just don't think it works anymore. But you're right to your opinion is your right. Please play with it. It could be true. You never know. It doesn't disprove it. And that's ultimately what we came to this week. It doesn't disprove it.
Okay. That's all I was trying to say, is that it doesn't prove or deny anything. It just gives them more information for people to have lots of conversation on the internet.
Well, yeah, but I will say, like, Red has a conversation later on where he's like, there were alternatives, not now, not when she mentioned Katarina, and he said it like it's another person. And he does say it like it's another person. I know you're going to be that's
because he's Raymond Reddington. He has to say it as another person.
To me, if Dembe knows the secret, he knows the truth about me, or she knows the truth about me. That would be if that was the case. I just don't think it's the case, but hey, that could be me beholden to my theory, which I'm not beholden to a theory. I just have some ideas. So now we can move on to Red, because I will say, as much as Liz is in these episodes, it's more about seeing her cascading into darkness, and it's mostly in the first episode. The second episode is really more of Ressler and Red. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Anything more on Liz? I mean, are you surprised by some of the crimes she was willing to break?
I didn't understand the whole kidnapping thing either, to be quite honest. I'm like, just flash the badge and say, hey, I got a couple questions for you. Can you get in the van? And then you could just sat in the van and ask her the questions and then let her go.
Yeah.
The kidnapping thing was weird. But, TV. It's got to happen in order to get Jennifer kidnapped by the mummy.
I get it. I mean, and I like Arnold Vosloo. It's nice to see him pop up. I mean, he was in the Darkman series too. I like Arnold Vosloo. He's a good actor. It's just, I really don't feel like that was a very good Blacklister. And to be number 58, yeah, I guess it's more about Margarite. I mean, it's getting to Margarite is really the bigger, the bigger piece of that
That's
puzzle.
the whole problem I have with these numbers now. It's like Minister D was much more important. He should have been 58 and Jankowics should have been 99.
Yeah, because Minister D is what gets him out of the treason. Hey, you know what? We've all got our opinions on what that is too. I'm like, it's wherever the importance of where Red needs him, and I would think Minister D is definitely a sub 20. You know what I mean? Because that's my benchmark. You're important when you're sub 20, when you're 20 or below. This guy seemed pretty freaking important to me.
I would think so. I mean, he's actually seen Katarina Rostova face to face,
and yet. There's no... This brings me back to the point I was making earlier, and I said I'd come back to it, and I almost forgot. At the end, she's talking to Bailey, right?
Right.
She's talking to Loving, a.k.a. Bailey.
In holding.
Right. There's no follow-up questions. This is... Okay, I love the Blacklist.
Katarina gave that to you, too. Hey, look, I got one, too. We're buddies.
This is a point that drives me. I love this show, but this is a point that drives me bonkers, and I'm not going to let It's a TV Show be the escape anymore. You can't keep putting characters in moments where you know they should be asking a question and they don't ask it. I'm fine if the characters don't reciprocate, or they give you an answer of BS, or they just say they don't remember, or they just give some crappy answer. But to not ask the question is infuriating as a fan, because we all know we would ask that follow-up question. You knew my mom. Tell me anything about my mom. Anything. I don't care what it is. What kind of licorice did she like? Was she a Red Vine person or a Twizzler person? Because that's really important to me, because we all know people that like Twizzlers are probably psychotic, and people that like Red Vines are definitely better people. That's just a theory. That's my personal theory, but that's a theory. But ask the question. Just ask something. To sit there and then know they know an answer and then walk out of the room is just nuts to me. It's nuts. And it's happened too much over the course of these last few episodes where, it happened last week with Dembe. Ask the question. I don't care what the answer is, and I get that you're not going to answer it, but you have to have the characters ask the questions, or else fans are in forums and chat rooms and Twitter, and they're all going, "What an idiot! What an idiot!" Am I wrong?
The character, not the actor.
Absolutely. I'm talking about, yes, always the character. Yes, always the character. What, am I wrong?
No, I mean, you're in that moment. The first thing I thought of is like, she looks at the scar and I'm, oh, great. She's going to roll up her sleeve and remind the audience, hey, I have a scar too. I got it from my dad or mom in this case, or whatever it is these days. Mm-hmm. But it's like, why don't you show the scar at a minimum? Like, hey, I got, we're buddies.
Are we connected in any way, shape, or form? Because it's weird. You got a burn scar. I got a burn scar. You know my mom. I know my mom. Well, I don't know my mom, but I might know my mom. Might be in jail. I don't know. Can you tell me anything?
You were in a house that blew up, and hey, there was a fire in a house that may have blown up, and maybe it was the same house. Maybe these people were the ones that were there. Ask a question.
Is an F. Once again, it's in the title. I stands for investigation. You have to investigate.
Now, she's a profiler, technically, so technically she can make up her mind about a person just by hearing them talk. But in order for them to talk, you got to ask a question.
So you don't think I'm nuts? I mean, I know that was very impassioned, but it has become a frustrating point. Like, I have yelled at my TV several times over the last few weeks, and I'm sure you guys have too, because it is frustrating as a fan when they don't ask that question. Whatever that question is, just ask it. We know we're not going to get the answer, and I think they gave us the second hour was a great episode, by the way. I think they gave us a ton of information that fans needed, and it's wonderful. And people are going to be talking about it, excited for a long time. I'm not knocking the episode or any previous episodes. I'm knocking the fact that you're making the characters seem dumb by not asking that one simple question, regardless of what the answer is. I mean, you guys are great writers right away around the answer, but you got to ask the question. I think it's imperative, especially at this stage in the game.
Yeah. 6 seasons in, you got to start moving towards an end game.
Woof. All right. Feel better. I got that off my chest. Yeah. No, it's important. I'm a fan, man. And fans are passionate. That's why we love the show, right? We care about this stuff.
For sure.
So you can't just not keep bringing it up. It's an important thing that I think needs to be addressed. And I know they're way ahead of schedule. Like, they're many episodes down. So they'll probably hear this and go, there's nothing I can do now. And I get that. But keep an eye before you end the season. If you get any more characters in these situations, ask the question. It's driving me nuts. Woosa. Okay. I wonder how many people just quit the podcast because of me, and I'm really sorry, Troy, if I ruined it for you.
It's okay.
So, Red.
My tribe will still be there in the insane asylum.
Yeah, that's true. Red, you better keep all three of your eyes open.
That was a great line. Great line.
That was my favorite line of both hours. My favorite line. He and the warden have a spat early in was it the first episode? And he takes away his music. The warden wants Red to mediate a gang war.
Wait. He didn't take away his music. He broke the effing record.
Well, yeah, but he took it away, too. And then he brought it back later. So he took away his toys.
Yes.
Because he wants his help to mediate a drug war or gang war. And thankfully, Liz needs his help, because she's trying to locate Jennifer. And he's not buying any of that nonsense, by the way, at all.
But what the one thing that kind of perplexed me in that first hour was, why wasn't Red more perplexed or angry or frustrated or whatever, especially when Liz came to talk to him at 3:00 in the morning, like, oh, hey, your sister's involved? It didn't seem like it bothered him too much.
Yeah, it didn't, because I don't think he cares as much about Jennifer, because I don't think Jennifer is any relation to him whatsoever. And I feel like that's obvious at this point, is it not? I mean, I know this is just a theory because they haven't actually said that, but I really don't think she's important to him in any way, shape, or form. Do you think Jennifer is Reddington's?
Do I think Jennifer is this version of Raymond Reddington's daughter?
Yeah, do you think that?
No, I think Jennifer Reddington is Jennifer Reddington. Raymond Reddington, the original Raymond Reddington's daughter. And husband to Naomi, Carla Reddington.
Is that possible? Are Jennifer and Liz the same age then?
I think Jennifer might be a little older.
Okay. Older, really? I always saw her as the younger sister.
I don't know. Could be young. It can't be younger because, could be younger. I guess it just depends on, timey-wimey, Doctor Who, DeLorean stuff.
Yeah, that's where I need some dates. I just need her and Liz's birth date. That would be great. Like official birth date, not just from a wanted poster. Official birth dates would be great. So we have a good idea of who's a whata. All right, but
whether she's younger or older, I don't think it matters. I think what we know for a fact is that she is the product of Raymond Reddington and Carla Reddington, where Liz is the product of Raymond Reddington and Katarina Rostova. That's the important part. Who's older, younger, doesn't matter.
Well, but it would be important because why does he care about Liz and not care about her? Other than Red is Katarina.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I kind of wish I just wouldn't have said that. All right. He and...
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
We have... No, I don't think it's true at all. We have the warden that works things out at the end, but we kind of get the vibe that he wanted this guy dead, which means, do you think the warden's in on this drug trade?
Isn't every warden in on some kind of shady business in a prison?
It feels like it, which, every time you watch a prison movie, the warden's always dirty, except for Prison Break. Actually, I think it's the only time I've seen a warden that was clean.
But Death by Meat Thermometer, I definitely going to add that one to my list.
I love that final ending shot where it's a close-up on it. That was great.
But the temperature didn't move. I was hoping the temperature was going to go down as the body died.
No, man. I thought it was great because it's well done. I thought that was pretty clever. And Red, because like you said, Red kills an inmate, which he takes that job in the kitchen because Red's not having this. And also by the end of the episode, he knows Liz knows something about him, or thinks maybe Liz knows something.
And as frustrated as people are, asking questions and timelines and dates and whatever, the thing that people love about the Blacklist is the unexpected. He's like, I want a job in the kitchen, and you go, oh, he's going to poison Cyclops' food. But then, when he does the meat thermometer thing, you're like, yes, that's why I watch the Blacklist every week. That's awesome.
Well, I would say that the second episode is where I got the Red that I like because we got a lot of detail, a huge monologue that really told some stories. So we're going to break that part down.
That's a lot of courtroom stuff too, and you like the courtroom stuff.
I love courtroom. A lot of people aren't loving that. By the way, it looks like we're going to be in court for some time. Well, unless you watch the preview.
You're assuming he gets away.
No, I'm not making an assumption. Just don't watch the preview. Just come back in 2 weeks when they have the episode.
The previews,
not our show.
The previews are for people that are just watching other stuff that's like, oh, hey, that looks interesting. I'll watch that this week. Mm-hmm. It's not for you. Don't watch them.
I don't, typically. I just happen to watch it because I had to rewatch the show like 18 times to understand what the hell was being talked about. And then I got to the end and I forgot to stop playing it. So the DVR just brought it up.
That's because your thumb was on the rewind button instead of the fast forward one.
It's true, man. I forgot where the fast forward button was. So we got some facts. So let's break this down. Okay. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. When he's talking about Katarina, hid the fact that she was an KGB agent and sent that info to the Russian Navy without Raymond Reddington knowing it. That was the question mark. Mm-hmm. So here's how it breaks down. According to Red, well, first, there was another witness I should mention, the accountant. A month before the incident, an account was opened. A month prior, which had millions wired into this account using fingerprints and a passport. No one saw Raymond withdraw it. Red is adamant that Katarina framed Reddington.
It was 3 million, right? 3 million went in, and then 3 million went out shortly after the sub went down.
3 or 5. I know it was millions. I just wrote billions down because I couldn't remember.
And it was all done by fingerprint and no actual 2 signatures or anything like that in person.
Fingerprints and a passport. That's what they said. Fingerprints and a passport.
Which would totally be faked. Totally.
Could be, but it definitely wouldn't be faked by a Katarina. So there has to be another dude in play if it's not Raymond Reddington. And maybe he knows that because he was that dude.
It's possible.
Definitely possible. Okay, so Red on the stand. Are we ready?
Ready.
Whew. Okay, so I'm breaking it down. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is the gist, okay? Raymond Reddington was an intelligence officer who had a relationship that resulted in a daughter that they both loved.
A pregnancy.
The woman... No, he said a pregnancy that resulted in a daughter.
Yes.
That's literally what I just said. Do I need to go pregnancy to daughter?
Well, you got to be specific for the fans or they're going to put you on a stake.
No, then you're being weird if you think that's a big problem. Okay, so it resulted in a daughter they both loved. The woman was a KGB officer that she had been assigned to get close to Reddington and steal classified info from him. What Reddington could never have expected, but should have, apparently, which was an interesting mention, was that Rostova's real handlers were part of the cabal. That's an interesting twist, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's not Russia, that's the cabal. But it ties the cabal back in. I know a lot of people have been saying, we haven't heard about the cabal in forever. Well, here you go. So when Reddington discovered this, he confronted Rostova, and she said they would destroy his reputation, and that's what happened. And you hear tape, and we're coming back to the tape. Rostova framed Reddington with the help of the Cabal, and as he tried to protect his country, they turned on him. And Raymond Reddington became a completely, quote-unquote, a completely different person who did some brutal, scary, even illegal things, but never anything treasonous. Not once.
And if your country did that to you, would you not then disavow your country?
Yes, which it sounds like by many of the things that he says throughout the course of the series, he did. And also I want to point out, if he says, I never did anything treasonous, not once, or he didn't say I, he said Raymond Reddington, I get the impression from that he is a person devoted to country.
I'd almost get the impression that maybe this is actually Raymond Reddington.
Well, no, see,
and then the bones,
he never says I.
And the bones were doctored.
Now, I know he was saying, I know he was saying that it's a narrative, right? He was saying that.
Yeah, the judge even said he could talk in the narrative form.
He's talking in narrative, which is quite convenient. And by the way, I don't think they do that in courtroom, but okay.
Not many people would represent themselves if they're on trial for their life.
That's true, but whatever. And I'm sure somewhere there's a Wikipedia page where you can look all this information up, just like Red said. I mean, I think that's probably why he dropped that in there. Find Wikipedia, and you can find all of these details there. I think that's actually kind of a nod to Wikipedia.
Because if it's on Wikipedia, it's true.
So before we get to the tape, this is the story that he's painting. I'm assuming this is the truth of Raymond Reddington. I don't believe he is Raymond Reddington. He is, the imposter. Now, my question is, he seemed very regretful about a lot of this. How do you feel about that whole section of his testimony?
Yeah, that's the hard part, because you can't tell how much of the pausing is him feeling regret and how much the pausing is him, how do I talk about this in the third person without bringing my name into this? Because if I'm not Raymond Reddington, which in the previous discussions with Ressler, it was very important that the Raymond Reddington kept coming up, and as if Raymond Reddington was not in the room. And so the writers are playing a dance here. So it's hard to tell if it's emotion or hard to tell if he's just searching for words. But I think the way that he told it in the third person makes you go, the imposter story is still alive. And we're not actually seeing Raymond Reddington, the official Raymond Reddington, on the stand. But by the end of the speech, I was starting to be questioning things again.
Well, I'm 100% certain Raymond Reddington is dead. The Bones have confirmed it. The showrunners confirmed it. We just need to accept it.
They confirm a lot of stuff, and there's also a lot of scientific stuff.
That's not true, man. That's not true. They don't confirm anything unless it's actually confirmed. I haven't heard anything that they've actually said was 100% the case that turned out to not be true. So I don't believe that.
I don't either. I'm just, there's people that are trying to in the boards and whatever. And
yeah, I know. I've heard Bokenkamp did this. He said this, and then he changed his story. I'm like, no, he doesn't. He talks in circles. Listen to John. He's a great guy, and he talks in circles. He knows how this game is played, and the only time he confirms anything is when it's confirmed. There you go.
Yep.
Done. That's the way I see it.
So then,
I'll take him at his word.
So then, if the imposter is true, then the way that this whole conversation goes down, it's like there's one of two scenarios. Like, it's got to be that this is Katarina, or this is somebody that worked with Katarina and was present in all of these events in order to have this much knowledge about the situation.
This is definitely a person who was involved in some way. And of course, the first person you name is Katarina. It wouldn't have been the first person I named because they gave other stuff in this episode that nobody's paying attention to, which I don't get. So let's break down the tape, okay? So the tape, they finally find the tape, which was in a picture. Remember, it was in the picture of Zachary Temkin and Bailey, these two guys. And they assumed that Zachary Temkin is the lover. Okay, fair enough, right? That's a weird assumption, but you jump right to it. I mean, all they're doing is like two guys with arms around each other. I've got friends, you've got friends. I've got a picture of me and my buddy Scott Clark where we're in Hawaii playing ukuleles. It doesn't look like the straightest picture ever, but we're both straight. So I don't really know if I like that assumption. Anyway, so the tape, December 7th, 1990. That's when the voice recording was taken. The voices are confirmed as Alan Fitch and Katarina Rostova, both confirmed. Not quite sure how Ressler confirmed the voice was Katarina Rostova, but I'm sure by pursuing Raymond Reddington, he found some other evidence of her voice at some point. right?
I would assume so. The task force would have to dig into the past and would be able to uncover some of that stuff.
But that's an assumption. That was also a part where I'm like, how do you know? Maybe Ressler knows that she's alive.
And remember, that task force was probably commissioned by Diane Fowler, which was also tied into the Cabal at some point.
True. Okay, so we got a lot of confirmations here. We got a confirmation that Fitch knew Rostova. We got a confirmation that the Cabal was involved, that the Cabal framed Reddington, et cetera, et cetera. So she convinces Fitch to smear his name instead of kill him because of their love. He took Masha. There's the fulcrum. I love his daughter. My daughter.
Correction. Fitch said, kill him or smear him. Either way, I want it done by Christmas. So
I was getting there. Jude, I was getting there. Sorry, let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
Let me finish with the tape's about.
I just don't want the hate mail coming your way.
It's fine. She says, he took Masha. There's the fulcrum. I love his daughter, my daughter. I want this mess cleaned up by Christmas. Smear him or kill him, whatever it is. She convinces him that it's okay to smear him. And then I come back to who is Zachary Temkin, because that's almost brushed off, but it's not, it shouldn't be brushed off. The tape that clears Red, the tape that clears him of treason is inside the picture of Temkin, the guy who supposedly died in the fire.
That was taken away from Bailey. So what you're saying is that, are we looking at Zachary Temkin is the actual imposter?
That's what I'm theorizing. The bones, Raymond Reddington, and Zachary Temkin, assumed the role of Red Reddington. Now, to what end or for what reason, I don't know. But that is, I've said maybe it's a brother. Maybe Temkin was working with Katarina. Maybe I've got a couple. These are just ideas. There's nothing in the show to demonstrate this. Like maybe her brother, Dom's son, was working and trying to get close to Bailey because Bailey had all these. He was working on secrets, right?
Sure.
Working on information. And obviously, Katarina commissioned him in some way to record these things, or Zachary worked him to get these things in some way, right? So those are possibilities. Maybe Zachary Temkin is actually Katarina's brother. That's a possibility. Or he was actually Katarina's real romantic partner. Like, that's who she really loved, because she never said she loved Raymond Reddington.
Right.
She never said that. She loved her daughter. So he was a mark, a target. Mm-hmm. So it's possible Temkin was working a different angle, but really was with Katarina. That's a possibility. And maybe maybe he was actually married to Katarina, and that's how Dom knows him. Like in the real world, in the private secret world, like they loved each other or something.
Yeah, because you never get confirmation of whose child it is. In Requiem, you assume at that time that it's the difference between Katarina and Red or Katarina and Constantine, because you never really found out who was the father. But maybe there were other lovers in the mix. Well,
very possibly, and it could. And I've said this all along. It's always been he's got a familial relationship with Liz, but her dad is dead, right? Raymond Reddington is dead. That's been confirmed as far as we know. Nothing's said otherwise, right?
Right.
So, isn't it possible that Temkin was with Katarina, and though he wasn't the biological father, loved that child because it was Katarina, the woman he loves, child?
Or what if Temkin is the biological father?
No, he's not. That's been proven. They said it on the show. We can't do what ifs if they've already said something's definitive in the show until we get evidence to contradict the definitiveness. That's where I'm at. I'm done with the guessing games. I'm only going to go with what the show told me.
The show also told you that Raymond Reddington is the father.
No.
You want me to say yes? Elizabeth
they did not.
They said Elizabeth is my daughter.
He said Elizabeth is my daughter. And that 100% could be taken the way that I'm painting this picture, because I would, if I love someone and they have a child, I would see them as my child. I've got a good buddy who just got divorced. Sad story, but she had a son before they got married. He still thinks of him as his son because he loved or loves their mother. See what I mean?
Sure.
100% works. 100%. So in theory, this is all theory, but they did say Raymond Reddington, the bones are confirmed. DNA, da-da-da-da. That was your dad, Liz. Your dad is dead. John Bogenkamp confirmed. Yes, Raymond Reddington is her father, and he is dead. Yes, he confirmed both those things. Go back and listen to his interview this season. He confirmed. So I don't have any doubts about any of that.
Okay.
So Temkin, to me, is my new link, because we're wondering who else could he be? Well, he could be a guy who actually Katarina loved and was there the whole time, maybe just like keeping an eye on things and making sure that she was safe, or working with her in tangent, kind of like The Americans. You watch The Americans, kind of like that, like they're maybe a covert married couple. And then things went south. He had to assume the role of Raymond Reddington so that he could be there to protect Katarina's child. And maybe Katarina is in hiding somewhere if she's still alive.
But I guess that's the number one. The best question of the episode is Ressler's question. Why literally choose to become a pariah? Why take the identity of the man who's now being wanted by the Fulcrum, or wanted by the Cabal because of the Fulcrum, wanted by the country because he's been framed? Why do you choose to become that person? That's a big, really big question.
Okay, so I went on a big tangent about what I got out of this episode, what it made me think about. You've long-standing had the theory that Red is Katarina, so what did this stuff tell you?
I think as you go through, I think he's staying true to the fact that he's talking in the third person. I think that he truly does care for the situation. I think that maybe I go back to Fitch now and the whole stuff in season 1 about, we had an agreement. You wouldn't do these things. You came out of hiding. Like, why are you here? Do you have the Fulcrum? Do you not have the Fulcrum? Et cetera, et cetera. So there's a possibility in my head where, assuming the Red Arena theory is true, which is still plausible even after the nurse and everything that was said in the first hour. And as you go through the second hour, I think that the number one thing that she stressed in this tape, specifically in this tape to Fitch, is that I love his daughter, my daughter. She's going to do anything she can to protect her daughter. And if there was a contingency plan around the Fulcrum that said, if Raymond Reddington were to die, the Fulcrum would be released and the Cabal would be exposed, then the only reason that makes sense in my brain, Red Arena aside, right, is to say, I can keep my daughter safe if I can be close enough to her and rise up and take on the enemies that'll rise up against her. So therefore, I'll become her father. And then as long as he's alive, Raymond Reddington, the Fulcrum stays sealed. Hence why the Fitch and Raymond relationship in season 1 seems more like they're buddies rather than enemies. Because this tape makes it sure sound like Raymond Reddington's a dick. And I want this guy dead. If you want to take care of it differently, that's fine, but he's more of a nuisance to me. Why would they be friends in season 1 other than the fact that this person that he is sitting across in season 1 is like Fitch is the handler and this is the agent? And in this case, this tape says Katarina was the agent and Fitch was the handler. And so I think that this more than enough brings us closer to that this person is Katarina Rostova, because there's no other explanation other than I can keep my daughter safe and I can keep the Cabal safe because I can make sure the Fulcrum doesn't come out because Raymond Reddington's alive. That's the only reason you become Raymond Reddington, in my opinion.
Well, I just gave you another reason, but you didn't listen to it because you're so stuck on your theory. But whatever.
6 years in the running.
I'm just saying, I mean, that's the problem with beholden to only one theory. You can't see anything else.
Oh, no,
I can see the Katarina. I can see other options. You are blind to any other option except the one you want to come true.
I'll be 100% upfront and honest. Like last night, I was all about, okay, well, if this thing 90-90, 89, fire, blah, blah, blah. What if Liz actually shot the imposter? The imposter is the one that's laying on the ground in the dream sequence, hence the burns on the back. Therefore, in 1990, there's a different scenario where they get rid of Raymond Reddington, which is the whole didn't arrive home for Christmas, blood all over the place, set up the whole family so he could disappear. And so maybe there is a third party in this entire sequence. So I am completely open to another idea, but I think your conversation from earlier in this podcast that said it could all happen within a short period of time got me off of that ledge. But I was on the ledge. I was on the ledge going somewhere else.
Come on. You were looking for any branch to come off that ledge so you can just grab onto it and jump back to the shore.
Heck yeah.
And it could have been anything, and you'd have been like, you know what? Katarina's still alive. I get it. Yeah, that theory still holds. And hey, I don't think there's anything in here to dismiss it, like I said earlier. But I also, I feel like this episode puts you further from it, or it should make you question it a little bit more than you have previously.
Maybe that's the plan. People are getting too close. Everybody was talking about it. It seems to crop up a lot more after season 5.
Yeah, maybe. What I think people need to do is look into Zachary Temkin. That's the character that is now fascinating to me. And maybe I'm getting a little too obsessed with that one dude, but I firmly believe that there is another party involved, and that's the party that took on the mantle of Raymond Reddington, and it's about the why. Why would he do that? Why would somebody, as Ressler said, why would anyone choose to be a pariah? That's the great question. And that's the answer that everybody, I feel like, should be focusing on instead of refusing to let certain things go and being caught up in dates that aren't confirmed and that are more of fans have put together. And don't get me wrong, I love that. Like, fans doing that is what makes this show fun, or a big portion of it. But sometimes we got to accept we didn't know that for certain. Now they gave us something for certain. We have to accept it. They gave us some dates. And it's been confirmed by the dates, the dates on the tape. They got the dates in the show, and it's listed by many people. So the question is, why would someone choose to be Raymond Reddington? That's the big question. Could it be Katarina? Sure, but it doesn't feel like that. From anything we got here, I don't have anything that tips me in that direction. And I think, in fact, it tips me the other way.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to the one thing that John always said, and I think Eisendrath even says it more than Bokenkamp does. He's like, people are asking the wrong question. Mm-hmm. I think the question people should be asking is, why choose to become Raymond Reddington?
And I want to stress one more time, the tape was hidden in the picture with Bailey and Temkin.
Well, that's where Bailey hid the tape, because Bailey is the one that made the tape.
Right.
That doesn't mean anything other than it's just like that's the place that he wanted to keep it, because it's the tape about why his partner, friend, lover, otherwise, was taken from him.
But there's a reason, and that's one more reason why there needed to be a follow-up question there. Liz needed to ask something more about it, because he obviously knew more about it than he was letting on.
Something like,
ask.
Tell me more about Zachary. Let's have a bonding moment.
Right. Let's talk about this Temkin guy, because I want to point out, like, they mentioned it almost underhandedly and very brushed off, like they were brushing it off. But you don't mention a character by name unless that's going to come back at some point. I don't believe. So I really think people should pay more attention to that. I'm not saying go off on a crazy Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole, but just keep it in mind. It's possible. Temkin could very well have been Katarina's real lover or her real brother, and he was also working as a spy. And that would also explain why Dom accepts him. So there you go. I can't wait to see what fans have to say about this one. And I was probably more passionate than I should have been. I'll try to dial it down, but I won't be here.
Never, because you're I'm always the one that's like, rah! It's like, this is fun. This is like I'm just going to sit back. I'm just eating popcorn.
March 23rd, 1:30 p.m., Chicago, Illinois, C2E2. Go to c2e2.com and get your badge. Troy and I are going to be hosting a panel with some of the actors of the Blacklist. They are going to be there to answer your questions and to answer our questions and to probably avoid a lot of answers. But they're going to be there, and you guys are hopefully, be able to ask them whatever you want. And there's going to be a Q&A, so you can definitely jump up there. And it's going to be Harold Cooper. It's going to be Amir Arison. It's going to be Glenn. It's going to be Dembe. It's going to be John Bokenkamp. Everybody's going to be there. Come check it out.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Can't wait. We'll have a little bit of a Blacklist Exposed fan meetup as well. So if you are a listener of the show, we do have a survey out there, so you can tell us you're coming, so we can know how many people to expect. That way we can find a place to hang out. So if you head over to theblacklistexposed.com, over on the right-hand side if you're on the web, or scroll all the way to the bottom if you're on mobile, just find the C2E2 image, click on that, and that'll take you to the survey to let you know how to buy badges and let you know where to get us informed that you're coming. And you just fill out that survey. That would be fantastic. So again, right-hand side on the web, scroll to the bottom of the page on mobile. That is theblacklistexposed.com. Let us know you're coming so we can prepare, because it'll be a fun Saturday for sure. 1:30, March 23rd in Chicago at the McCormick Place Convention Center.
Right. And I will not, this is just a little heads up and you'll hear more about it next week, but I will not be here for the next 2 official Blacklist podcast episodes simply because I will be traveling to Austin, Texas for the South by Southwest Film Festival. So I'm just giving you a little heads up. Rory's going to come in and fill in and do a great job. I have no doubts.
And we should let you know that there is no Blacklist next week, but we do have a special interview. That's right. John Bissell is actually in the house. He's going to talk to us about music next week during the off week. So make sure you're still back here on your podcast player to hear that interview. And if you want to hear that interview early, you can do it by going over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. All of our people that support the show at $5 or more get that interview right now. So you don't have to wait until next week.
Okay, that's a great segue because we want to take a second to say thank you to all of you that are supporting us by going to patreon.com/theblacklistgsm or anywhere you see the word support the show. You can help make the podcast better by throwing a few bucks, pound, gen, whatever, in the hat, so to speak. We have different support levels for you, which you can get cool rewards like a t-shirt. You can become a task force or syndicate member. You can even get your own blacklister number. And every bit of support helps, and we're excited. Doug is an official blacklister. Doug gets a podcast t-shirt, a call with Troy once a month where you can talk about Troy's crazy-ass theories, which he's coming up with more right now as we speak, and his very own blacklist number. In addition, I want to thank our syndicate members, Marilyn and Lacey. Syndicate members get the t-shirt and the monthly call with Troy. Then we have our own task force members, Leonie, Brandon, and Jim. They get a t-shirt after being on the task force for 3 months, so congratulations to all of you.
Yes, and we also want to send shout-outs to Kevin, Paulette, Isabel, Richard, Nell, James, Michelle, Judy, Priscilla, and Sharon for being amazing special agents supporting us at that $5 level. They will get that interview early, as well as Doug, Marilyn, and a few of the others Aaron mentioned. So make sure you head on over to Patreon. That is patreon.com/theblacklistgsm. Fill the fedora and get some awesome rewards for yourself. And with that, we'll be back with Special Agent Intel right after this.
Are you sick of the endless, poorly realized remakes as we are? Then take a listen to Remake This Movie Right, where we take a classic movie, figure out what works and what doesn't, throw a dash of humor at it, and then we craft our own remake. So by the end of every episode, we will remake this movie right. Recently featured as a podcast to listen to by the AV Club, you can find us at remakethismovieright.com or your podcast app of choice. Every movie you love will get a remake someday, and only you can make it better.
Hey, this is John Bokenkamp. Welcome to the Blacklist Exposed on Golden Spiral Media.
Okay, now it's time to see what you all thought about this week's episode with our Special Agent Intel. We're going to start with Rory Marmorali. Is that how you say his name?
I don't know, but it sounds really cool.
I like it. All right, Rory says, isn't it telling that Red on the witness stand is referring to himself in the third person? Did they not realize that? Haha. So here are we to believe that Katarina was the bad one, and now we have to go back to Liz's memories on the night of the fire. Possible?
Except that memories of a 4-year-old can be misconstrued.
Definitely. Can be. Yep.
Grace Norman said, is there any way this is the real Red? I mean, any way.
I do not. Well, I mean, he is the real Red now, not
right.
Earlier. So, yes, I would say there is a way, just not the way that, not a biological way.
Right. He is not the original Raymond Reddington, since you said, per the interview, per last year, per the blah, 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 it has been confirmed.
Unless you can find some really crazy way to make all that a lie or make it true, but not, I don't know. But
and if they do, I think that the writers and everybody would lose credibility at that point because there's too many twists.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I feel like they're just saying, hey, get on board. This is where we're at.
Yeah, we're on the N train driving down the track.
Raphael Russi. So, how Fred knew about the tape?
That's a really good question. Like how. If Katarina was being recorded by Bailey, then how does this person that we're seeing as the imposter know that Bailey existed and the tape was recorded?
I already answered that if you were listening.
We'll repeat it because it's been going for a long time.
Red is possible. Is possible. Like I'm not beholden to any theory. I just think this is a good option.
Because you think that this is Temkin.
This is Temkin, and Temkin would know because he helped Bailey record it.
Okay, now I'm kind of buying into it now.
Right? That's the only way I could even put in my head how he would know, other than well, I mean, would Katarina even know she's being... Well, she would... If she was trying to make a tape, that's possible. So there's a possibility. But to me, this is Temkin. He's the one who knew it.
Yes. Because what if she commissioned Bailey to do it in order to frame Fitch at some point?
Yeah, I said this doesn't disprove or prove anything. But I definitely think it says that Reddington... Temkin and Bailey were both involved.
Okay. Deborah. Oh, Dembe lying on behalf of Liz just to put Ressler in the hot seat as the caller because Red knows that Ressler knows. That's an interesting thing. So technically by Dembe protecting Liz, if Raymond knows that Ressler knows, then Raymond would assume that if it's someone close that's a traitor, then maybe Red will suspect Ressler's the one that turned him in.
Oof, man. It's a whole lot of somethings.
Yeah.
And maybes. All right, Lindsay Walsh. Oh my gosh. So much info to take in. I am only just processing it. Firstly, I am not a Red Arena fan at all because I always take it on board when watching the show. I suppose it could be possible that she took on Red's identity after he was killed to either prove his innocence later down the line, but to make sure her identity was never revealed and she thought that was the only way to do it. Or it was to save her own skin as she knew he was innocent and could prove herself innocent, so would escape prison or being hunted, and it was a less dangerous life to live than to take on her own. Well, I mean, she could just do that right away, right? She didn't have to wait that long. I have never really believed in the theory, but open-minded and all. I respect that. I just find it odd how passionate Red was when he was telling the story, considering it wasn't about him. Until he was Cat.
Unless he was Cat, but as he isn't Red, and as he never had Liz, then why did he seem so deeply involved with the story about Red being hoodwinked by Cat? Surely he must be a relative, or he was involved in bringing the original Red down and was working with Cat, so feels the guilt, which would support being an uncle, would support being a lover, would support being a Temkin. A Temkin. Hey, don't go around being a Temkin all day.
Don't be a Temkin.
Oh my gosh. Nath Bentley said, who we know as Red is either Katarina's brother or Raymond's brother. He found out about Katarina betraying the real Red, takes his identity because he was so ashamed of what Katarina did. This explains how Dom knows him, and he is crappy with him for exposing Katarina.
You buy that as a possibility that it could be Raymond's brother?
No. The Dom thing says if it's got to be familial related, it's either Red is Katarina or it's Katarina's brother. Uncle theory.
Well, I mean, Raymond's brother would be her uncle.
Theory too, yes, I know. But we mean uncle theory has been denoted as Katarina's brother.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I'm not going to discount it. It would take some... I mean, he could have punished Katarina. That's why she's still alive but gone somewhere. So maybe that's what Demi meant when, what you've...
But then when Dom says things like, it's because of you, dear son, that everything in my life has fallen apart. My whole family is dead. Well, no, because his family's still there.
Yeah, that's true. Interesting.
It's weird.
All right, Dee Elliott. 2 of the best episodes all season. We didn't get all the answers, but at least we got something. The timeline's still a concern. The tape was from December 7th, 1990, and Fitch made it sound like it was before the fire. Like that was before the fire. We always thought the fire was 1989. Did anyone else catch that, or am I wrong? I never thought it was 1989. Just a lot of people did. I always felt like that was the date that people were doing a whole lot of math to get to. I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I didn't see it myself. Troy did, though.
Well, yeah, because it's the whole birthday thing, the wanted poster, the timing, the blah, blah. I think you make a good argument that it could all fit within the window. I absolutely do. I think the one thing we need is Liz's birthday. And I want to say the birthday was in the show at some point. So if anybody out there knows if the official birthday was ever given in the show, not Megan's birthday, right? Not that one. Liz's birthday. If that was ever given the show at some point, go out to the website, comment on this episode, shoot us an email, put it on Facebook. Just make sure we see it. Tag Aaron and I. If we got the birth date, then that hopefully solves a lot of this. Because if her birthday is December 28th, 1985, which would match the wanted poster, then technically she could still be 4 years old when this fire happened in 1990. If it happened in 1990.
If. Big if.
All righty. Monica said, wow. Great double feature. Episode 8, Jennifer survived her capture and torture by the mummy. Since she knows that Red is an imposter and lived, then maybe Ressler will also live. Well, she's gone right now. It doesn't say she's going to survive. Let's see. Do you hear me, Aaron Peterson? Speaking of Ressler, great job, Diego. And what's that?
Oh, I was here. I said,
Okay. Speaking of Ressler, great job, Diego and Megan, working off each other. I hope we'll see more of them together. Good riddance, fake girlfriend. Episode 9, I do believe Katarina's alive. I might have my dates crossed on the Fire and Red's operation, and I'm sure someone will bring this up, but I'm in the she's alive camp, but am not in the Red Arena camp. Ressler brings up the question, why take the identity of a person accused of treason? Why Raymond Reddington? Katarina would have wanted to disappear completely and not take the identity of a wanted criminal. I always figured Raymond Reddington was innocent of treason.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Raymond Reddington had to exist to say that Katarina was dead.
Or if I'm thinking
or to
about
keep
it
an eye
now,
on Masha, but why couldn't she just disappear with Masha?
Well, if you go back to Requiem, Katarina only had to run away and hide because the KGB found out about the affair. Because if she's now the handler of the Cabal and the KGB, then technically the KGB wants her dead. The Cabal might not be able to protect her. Otherwise, they would risk exposure. So then she has to figure out, well, how do I hide from the KGB?
And it's harder to run with a baby than it is to run on your own.
Lots to think about.
All right, George Nallman. Very few people knew about the tape played in court. One is Fitch, who is dead, and the other is Katarina. How could the imposter know the tape existed and what was in it? I would say George. Nope. Bailey knew it. And my guess would be Bailey's friend, Temkin, knew it.
Right. You said that like there were quotation marks around that.
Well, I mean, it's possible that he's bisexual, and so he was trying to get information from him through for the Cabal or whatever, but he was also romantically involved with Katarina. It's possible. Sure.
Oof.
Bisexuality is a thing, guys. It's been around for a long time. It's a lot more plausible than I went and Ramsey'd myself. Or, I'm sorry, would that be Theon? I Greyjoyed myself.
Spoilers. Oh my gosh, still doing the rewatch.
A reverse Greyjoyed myself. How would that work? That's science. Yeah. One of those. It would be some Game of Thrones way.
Either way, it'll be a red wedding for sure.
I don't want to go there. All right, well, that's going to do it. I think we've put enough into this podcast this week, don't you think?
Oh, sure. Yeah, still got a lot more to do. But good enough for you guys for this week. And again, we'll be back next week with that special interview. So make sure you stay subscribed.
Yeah, it's really good. So I hope you guys check that out. That's going to conclude this episode. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at The Blacklist GSM, and where we live tweet during the East Coast feed when possible. And we use the show's hashtag The Blacklist. I also want to say this is a personal pimping of my own. I will follow @BuyPopcorn, and we will have some possible reviews from South by Southwest while we're out there if you're a movie fan. So check that out. That's @BuyPopcorn on Twitter, or The Hollywood Outsider on Facebook, everywhere else.
And don't forget to follow us on Tumblr, Instagram, and join the Facebook group where we'll talk about all of this, I'm sure, ad nauseum throughout the next 2 weeks. And that's over. Just search for The Blacklist Exposed. You can talk about the show, the podcast, or what secret you would keep from those closest to you. Just don't make sure they're in the group at the same time with you.
You can also subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and now Pandora, or from your favorite podcast player of choice. You can even listen from the website, plus find all the intel and analysis about these 2 episodes by visiting theblacklistexposed.com. Big thanks for listening. Don't forget to answer our profiling question. Do you feel Dembe lied to write about Liz? And I can also add, if you want to throw something there, why do you think someone would choose to be a pariah?
Yeah.
Make it a twofer. You had 2 episodes, maybe 2 questions. I don't know.
I mean, you live with it every day.
Wow, being a pariah?
Yeah.
That hurts, man. Like, I have a feeling.
You're leaving me for 3 weeks, so I have every right to be mad at you.
You got to be excited, though, because you don't have to hear me for 3 weeks. You don't have to listen to me moan and groan and bitch and everything else I do, right? That's probably exciting for you.
Just promise me that while you're at South by Southwest and you interview these people, that you'll ask the question.
I will. Thank you. I will definitely ask the follow-up question. And if I come, because last year I was there, Hisham Tafweek was there promoting his movie Jinn. If I see him this year for some reason, I'm going to tackle him and say, what's the answer? Nobody bothers to ask. I'm going to ask you, what's the answer?
You're going to plant a secret. Like, hey, I'm going to talk to you in 2 weeks at C2E2. And when I ask you this, you're going to say this.
Yeah, there you go. Give me something. Give me something.
Well, have fun. Right. Have fun, man. We'll see you at C2E2. It'll be the next time I see you.
Yeah, that's true. But we'll definitely be doing a podcast that morning, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, so we'll see how that rolls out. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming by.
All right, we'll see you later. Take care, guys. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at 5popcorn. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of the Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.